Before the Echo is brought to you by ASIO Outdoor Gear, ASIO Gear, and Stealth Outdoors. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Familiar faces back tonight.
Where?
I see you change your background. You put like some flowers in the background. What is that going on back there?
Just a camera got turned.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I thought maybe
I think they're actually fake cameras. Carol's got back there for something. I think she had to put them in here because the cats were eating them.
I thought maybe you doctored up your background to make it look nice. Put you a picture or something back there. How's things been going?
Good, real good. Just bored, silly.
I know, me too. Maddie mentioned the other day, she's like, you just seem off. And I'm like, I got to thinking, I'm like, I've not been hunting and outside. It's got real cold there. I didn't do anything outside. And I'm like, I just need to go in the woods for a while, probably.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of big bucks.
You know what? I had some show up. I for a while there, I was not getting anything on camera. And then the last couple of days, I'm starting to get bucks again on camera. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
One of them shed already.
Yeah, I can't hunt them, but have you seen some shed bucks? Yeah, right. Have you been seeing some shed bucks?
Yeah, one.
I haven't seen any yet here. They may be some around, but I haven't noticed any. At least on the cameras I got out, I haven't noticed any.
We typically got deer shedding already in like early December.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that, but I see them every year like that.
Yeah.
I remember Dave shooting one late gun season. He thought he shot a big doe. It was a big buck with no horns, and
yeah,
got one year, same Dave again, but shot one when it hit the ground, the antlers popped off.
Yeah, I think I remember that video. I think didn't you video that?
Yeah, we don't have the shot on film, but yeah, we have that on video.
Yeah, I think I may have made it into a short or something.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, before we get started, everybody, there is if you want to leave a question, just leave them in the comments like always, and we'll try to get to them tonight. And I have to show you guys one more thing that my wife Maddie's been working on. She is wanting to be a little more involved with what we're doing here, and she designed some shirts for everyone. So I was going to share my screen here just real quick, maybe. So I think you can see that. But she made a couple of shirts. One of them says Scout, Hunt, Kill, Cut, Eat, Repeat. And one is just says Meat Hunter on it. And then she made this one too. Packing Heat and Eating Meat. So the link to those shirts are below if you guys want to check them out. They're brand new. We just put them on just a little bit ago.
Look good, Maddie.
Yeah, she did a good job on them. She's real artsy like that, though. She liked the design thing. She kept asking me, like, what do you think about this? And she's just like talking to me about it. I'm like, I can't picture that kind of thing. You have to put it on the paper for me. But they turned out good. Yeah. Let's talk about public land hunting, Dan, because I have a feeling we could talk about this for a while. Have you noticed this year more people around than the past, several years?
Yeah.
I have too. There's been, specifically here in Indiana, usually Indiana, for the most part, has been a pretty low pressure state. But this year, there was a lot of people around on public land, a lot of people traveling farther. Like I've just noticed people from, I don't know, just random cities that I don't typically see people from. I just had someone message me before the show here that was hunting in the same area I hunted at, and he was from a different town. And there is getting to be a persona on public land about it getting to be. Remember how back in the day it was always impossible to kill deer on public land?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it
That's
feels
what
a little
people
bit like,
say. Mhm.
yeah, it feels a little bit like that's coming around again. We had a stretch there where the public land was good, and now it's like everybody's like, there's too many people and it's a mess.
Well, the way I understand it, you and me both ruined it for everybody. The whole world
Yeah,
ruined it for them.
yeah, yeah. Um, I I don't know. I think about that a lot. Like, so that's such a hard thing because I mean we didn't do that on purpose, right? Like it's
No, it's a trending thing. I mean, it's just people. I see this with like tactics. You hear a tactic that's wrong, and if the right person says it, it just goes like wildfire. Like this is it, and it's
yeah,
the same thing with this. I mean, I don't think all these people are making it any harder to kill a big buck. Honestly, I do think you got to work a little harder, but I think it's great all these people out there. I think the best part about it is they've all got a new attitude and kind of it's a more educated hunter where it used to be the public land hunter shot everything they saw and the stupid animals all died and you had a hard time growing big ones. Now there's a lot more big deer and big bucks because they're all passing deer. They're waiting for the right deer.
yeah,
Um, I'm seeing around my place, I'm seeing a real upswing in non-resident hunters coming in where I never had that ever, and
yeah,
now they're coming like crazy. And, I'm hoping that I had something to do with that. I love seeing more people hunt. I love seeing more people travel, get into it. It's way better than sitting in a bar or, doing things that are non-productive. I think, people who hunt and fish, camp, and spend time in the outdoors are just all around better people. And that's always been my goal to make people better hunters and hunters better people. That's been the goal from the beginning. And if I'm putting more people in hunting, I'm actually proud of that. And if that ticks some people off, I think they're misguided, but that's okay. They can get all the tick they want. They just go someplace else.
yeah, yep. And a specific state, Ohio. A lot of people were complaining about Ohio this year that it got just pounded, and I don't know. It seemed like there was not any more people than there usually is there for me, at least in the area I hunt. And it does seem like no matter what would happen, there could be void of people on public land, and deer hunters will make some type of an excuse as to like there's something wrong right now that I'm not going to be able to kill a buck here because
Yeah.
of whatever. If it wasn't people, it'd be you know the wind swirled or it'd be something.
I mean, how many times do you hear people say something like, "Well, you couldn't do that in my state. You couldn't do that where I live." It's like an excuse because
Mhm.
they're not achieving their goals. So it's like, no, it's because where you're at, or it's because because of this factor. It's because I'm not in Iowa, or you know what I mean. But
Yeah,
you can literally kill big bucks just about anywhere. At least for regionally. It doesn't mean every area grows them as big as other areas, but and it doesn't mean that they're managed correctly. But there's literally big bucks, bigger than your neighbors are shooting
hmm,
around everybody's place, and everybody can hunt better animals than in the area than their neighbors are.
yeah.
I mean,
That's
whatever.
that you mentioned that people that are better hunters, more better hunters are out in the woods, passing up deer and making things better. That's another topic that gets brought up is like the cell camera thing. A lot of people will argue that cell cameras are good in that manner too, where people know what's in the area and they may not shoot something because they got this 150 on camera that they know about, and whatever you want to argue either way with the cell cameras. But that is like another point that people make with cell cameras, and it's probably some truth to it. Um, and it also, I think cell cameras also a lot of times, me and you've talked about this 100 times on here, but people get so dependent on those cell cameras, and a lot of times those big mature deer, you know, keep keep a void of those cell cameras, and um, it probably keeps some people out of the woods. Whereas if they didn't have a cell camera in there, they may jump in there and hunt or something. But uh, I don't know. there's a lot of states going away from the cell camera thing, or you keep hearing more and more states pop up this
I
winter.
heard something from that lady that got that 195-inch buck that everybody's making such a big deal out of from Wisconsin. It really ain't that big of a buck. I mean, people shoot 200 inches around here every year.
Yeah.
So, but
that's kind of
for
weird.
whatever reason, that one's getting a lot of popularity. But she made the comment that all the cameras they had out, they only had one picture in August or something to that degree.
Yeah.
And then they didn't get another picture till November when they killed it. I wonder if she was hunting cell cams, you know?
Yeah, right.
But
I think I saw that. Now that you say that, you told that story, I think I remember seeing that deer. Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. I said on here the other day, like I had a buddy that got into got into bow hunting, and one of the first thing he asked me, like we were getting him a bow and got him, a stand and sticks and all this stuff, and then he's like, "What cell camera should I buy?" I'm like, "Well, let's just learn some things first before we start putting cell cameras out everywhere," But I don't know. It's a trend right now.
yeah.
All right. Now there is, it does seem like there's more people in the woods anymore, at least on public land in the woods. I want to talk to you about just what you did this year to that big giant buck you killed on a public in Wisconsin. I guess kind of the method of your madness on that deer and kind of the type of area it was in and how you kind of avoided pressure. Because I'm sure there was pressure on that piece of ground you were hunting.
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, that buck, for once, I didn't know it existed. I just knew that it was a good area that held big bucks and that when pressure came onto the land, the deer would go into one certain area. And I had luck there last year. That's right. It's real close to the spot where I spine shot that buck last year. And if you follow the videos, which some people probably that are listening do and some probably don't, I went in there and scouted my way in 2 seasons ago and found a tree, and it was a buckthorn tree that was where nobody else could hunt down in there because it is buckthorn, right? But there's trail networks everywhere, and it was near bedding, and I just thought it would be good. So I got the stand 4 feet off the ground, got in a tree, had a nice buck come through, hit him in the spine, and the arrow didn't break the spine. The arrow blew up and did not recover that deer. So in spring, when I went in there, and what I usually do when I get an opportunity or I see something, anytime I see a big buck come from anywhere, whether it's killed or not, I want to know where it came from. I want to know why it was there. I want to answer all the questions. So I'll go back in spring and follow those trails back, see exactly where the bedding was. I already kind of knew the bedding, but I wanted to know it intimately, and I wanted to see if there's a better setup that was closer. Because I had scouted my way in, and when you scout in hunting and you haven't spring scouted, you're guessing how close you can get. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking maybe I can get closer. So I got in there and I found an area that was a little more open, a little more green and lush. And I thought it was closer to where the deer were, but there wasn't a lot of sign. But I knew that the deer I seen from the other position all came from there. Came through there from the bedding. So I picked out a tree and just moved on. And this year when I was down in Iowa, I shot a monster buck. It was bigger than the one we're talking about and didn't recover it. And it really it deflated me. And I ended up coming back a little early and just working on my bow and stuff and just getting my head straight. And then when I got back within a couple days, I went out here and just decided to give that spot a shot. Went in there and there wasn't no sign. The trails were all dried up. There was no browse, and the parking lot was packed with people. For such a small property, there was a large number of people on it. And when you take the number of people that were on it and you divide it by the number of acres, there's a lot of people there. So I got back to where I was and didn't like the sign, didn't like any part of it. But if there's anything I've learned over the years, it's that the biggest bucks I've shot have come from spots like that. It's like you don't see a ton of sign in near those bedding areas. It's like that buck's got that area, wrapped up kind of thing. And anyways, I wasn't there long. He came out and I shot him. And one of the key takeaways to that is that I was hunting a spot that didn't glow. It had everything a big buck needed, and I knew about the bedding, but it's not the kind of spot that's going to attract all that pressure. And you know, if what everybody's saying is true about all this pressure killing every big buck on public land, I don't know how I ever killed a buck, you know, or kill any of the ones I kill. It actually seems to me that properties like that, if you have big bucks that are there, the pressure puts them where they belong and they're easier to kill. They're easier for me to kill because I know the property intimately, because I do my homework. And I can guarantee you, all these people that we're educating don't do the homework as much as I do. And it really becomes work ethic. How much are you willing to work to get that buck? You know, and how much effort you're willing to put in and time willing to put in, and how much are you willing to put into figuring out what the other hunters are doing and what they're missing. You know, and that's really what it takes.
Yeah. So you've been hunting public your whole life, Dan. I didn't grow up hunting public. Like we hunted a little, you know, here and there, but not hard like I do now. How much easier was it back 20 years ago to hunt on public land than it is today? Like, is it easier, or is that just something that has it always been tough?
Well, 20 years ago it was easier.
Okay.
40 years ago it wasn't. People that are complaining about pressure now should have seen it 40 years ago.
Really?
So I've been alive long enough to see the trends. Now, when I came into hunting, everybody hunted. Everybody. And they were spread out everywhere. I mean, public land was crowded like crazy, especially gun season. Gun season, there's just orange people everywhere. And really, when I was young, I mean, they killed most deer before they, you know, ever shed an antler. I mean, finding a shed was something really, really rare. You know, and after gun season, there wasn't much for bucks left. So you're hunting 1.5-year-old bucks. And if you wanted to get something special, a 2-year-old would be something special where you got a nice 8-point or maybe a 9 or a 10 that's smaller, but it's a 2-year-old, you know. And as we got into like the 80s, bucks started growing and getting older and stuff. And we got our population up a little bit. And when I started learning the bedding, nobody else hunted like that. Everybody was trained to stay away from bedding. So those bedding areas were pristine. Nobody went in them. Nobody understood how points worked, how transitions worked, how, you know, any of that worked. So as I started figuring that stuff out, I was in a gold mine, and everyone you'd go to, you'd have deer come in. And well, not everyone, because there wasn't as many deer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, populations were low. But as we got into like the early 2000s, the end of the 90s, the population was starting to skyrocket. And mature bucks came along with that higher population, and there was bucks all over the place, and people were doing well. But what happened in that time frame was, in the 90s, the explosion of deer farming.
Yeah.
The Drurys, the Kiskies, you know what I mean? All those people were right in your face on TV, like we've never seen before. Now, a lot of people grew up in that thing, so they don't realize that was all of a sudden. But to people like me, it was kind of all of a sudden that stuff was in your face.
That probably came along with like cable TV, right? Like the Outdoor Channel came and.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because TV was all you had, you know, and DVDs at the time. DVDs started coming out, but everybody was taking the farm deer approach. You know, food plots, private land, the public land is crowded, and everybody wanted private land. And the public land just started draining of people. And what you saw on public land is you still saw hunters, but you saw hunters who were not very good. They didn't know what they're doing. They're beginner level. You'd go out in the woods and you'd see guys in the middle of the woods. You go out there during gun season, and the whole open forest would be a guy in orange every 40 or 50 yards claiming an area. And it's like, how would a deer get to the guy in the middle? I mean, if you had any common sense, you'd look at that and go, how could you ever think you're going to kill a deer when it's got to go past 50 people to get to you? You know, these people must think that they just jump up out of the leaves or something, you know? So we had stupider people, you know, the kind of people who would just, and I don't mean that stupid. I just mean
I know what you mean.
never learned the tactics, right?
Yeah.
So you'd see them, they would, if ever any place you saw a rub or something, there'd be a standover, and you kind of still see that.
Yeah.
You know, a stand. Well, now whenever I see a giant rub, first thing I do is my head flicks around. I look at the camera that's filming me, you know, as soon as I see it. But we went from that to now, thanks to the education in public land hunting, we're seeing a much smarter, group of people that are preferring the public land and the freedom of not having all the rules of private, having to deal with the landowners and stuff. And that might sound weird, but I don't know. Every property I've ever been on that's private, there's always some sort of stupid rules or stupid something's always sticking
always
in
a
the
butt. Yeah, there's always a butt.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you hunt like I do and you only want to go in there once or twice a year, they're going to give it to somebody else because you don't utilize it. You know, where I'm utilizing it really well, but I don't want to overhunt it, you know.
Right.
But, I mean, it's always got some sort of baggage. So some people like the freedom of public land and being able to hunt a new spot every day. It's a lot easier to hunt mobile. And like I said, I mean, if you're hunting private, if you're hunting that all the time, you're overhunting it. You know, 2 guys can do more pressure to an 80 acres than 100 guys can do on 1,000 acres of public, because you can always get those. You can just keep moving. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So people are starting to understand that. And there was always the misconception that there aren't big bucks on public land. And there's more today than there was, 30 years ago. I don't know about 20 years ago, because 20 years ago, is when they hit us with the CWD and just wiped out the population. Right around the early 2000s around here, we really had it good. I mean, some of these public lands were better than high dollar leases.
Yeah.
But that's changed, because of the CWD thing when they killed the numbers so bad. We're starting to get them back, but they're doing all kinds of, in my area, my personal area, we're starting to get them back, but they're doing everything they can to stop it. I mean, they're trying to, they're handing out doe tags and making doe seasons to get those numbers down. But there's still, I mean, the public land is full of big bucks, and it's almost comical to listen to these people complain when they don't even know what they're complaining about, saying guys like me have ruined the public land. I'm hunting public land. It ain't ruined. There's big bucks all over the public land, and I'm hunting very pressured stuff, and I'm finding niches to kill them. Like you said, I mean, that buck's got to be in my top 3 or 4 bucks.
Yeah.
All time. And I hunted right down under the noses of all these people around here.
Especially with a bow.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the one you killed 2 years ago was probably up there too, right? I mean, that was a big deer.
Yep. Amongst all the pressure.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's something like because I mean, even you, Dan, you probably get frustrated sometimes whenever you pull to a parking lot and you're like, gosh darn it, I don't want to deal with this today.
It ain't so much the parking lots. It's when you get out there and there's just cameras everywhere.
Yeah. But it's a good reminder to be like, man, there's probably one hiding in here somewhere. You just got to be persistent and keep after it and find them.
You know what the good part of those cameras is that it tells you how other people are thinking. If there's cameras in spots, people are looking at that spot. The deer are someplace else. So you just keep moving to the deer, till you find them. What you're finding is these guys that are more educated and going into the public land are gravitating to the obvious stuff. Now, it used to be the obvious stuff, even some of it you'd get out there and nobody's ever hunted there. There's not a setup or anything. And that's not so much the case anymore. Now you get into an island with a brushy point on it, there's going to be a setup right inside of it. There's going to be cameras there and stuff. But yet there's still big bucks there. Mm-hmm. What those big bucks do is they obviously recognize cameras. And anybody that doesn't believe that, just look through your pictures. And I guarantee you got a bunch of pictures like this looking at the camera, right? We all do. They see cameras. They know what cameras are. And especially if you put them in bedding areas. Now you start moving them out a little bit, they'll see them a couple times. They'll start being shy of them. They'll start coming in using the wind because they know something's up there. They've smelled people there. You think about how many of those giant bucks that I've shot, even this year's, are on the very first sit. Mm-hmm. And if not, they're the first sit of the year. Now, when you're putting a camera out there and it may be a cell camera, you don't have to come back for a while. You still went in there. You still left scent. And whether people want to believe it or not, that scent lasts a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it if, in the right conditions, it's there for 30 days, maybe more. We don't smell like a deer, but I do know that dogs can pick it up for quite a while. They might not be able to track it anymore, but if you're in an area, you're messing around, you're staying there for a while, trying to hang a camera and stuff, you're leaving a lot of scent. You're letting those deer know where you're at. So cameras can be good. I usually take a camera and I put it in a feeding area, an area where people actually go, where other people hunt, because I just want to know that that buck exists. My scouting will tell me where he lives, and I'll hunt him down. I don't need a camera in his bedding area. I don't need to tip him off that I'm coming. And those cameras, I mean, there's so many of them. Most of these young guys nowadays, they'll get like 10 or 20 of these things, and they'll just throw them all over the place. And any place they think might be good, where a lot of these spots may have not have been hunted in the past because they didn't have confidence in them, but they might just, well, let's throw a camera there and see what happens. And then they get the confidence, but those cameras tell you where they're at, where they're hunting. And if they get a picture of a buck, they're moving in, and that buck might just be starting to get used to the camera, and now all of a sudden you add human scent and stuff. And those bucks are going to be in places where those cameras aren't. So what you're looking for is you're looking for those land features. You're looking for those points, those fingers, those brush, points that might not be as obvious, might not be able to see them on an aerial view as well, but they're still there, and they're not where people are going out and putting cameras. Maybe they're off to the side. Maybe you got to go around a private property and come back in a different way because there's only one access that's really weird to get to a spot. So I'm always looking for those weird access spots, the spots that are overlooked, where you can't really park, or behind houses, things like that, and finding those niches. And believe me, a lot of them, you get out there and there's cameras there, there's stands there, there's people are hunting there. You got to have the time to do, to walk, to look, to find, and you got to be able to walk past stuff that looks good, but there's cameras all over the place. There's tree stands all over the place. There's sign. I mean, a lot of guys are they're garbage people. They dump their crap underneath their trees. You see it for ways. They put flags to their trees, or you see that stuff, and it tips you off that people are there. Mm-hmm. And if you're seeing tree stands, you're seeing cameras, you're in the wrong spot if you want to kill a mature buck. Mature bucks are where nobody is, but they're still there. And actually, by having all that stuff across the landscape, when you go out there and you're getting frustrated, there's a tree stand here, there's a camera there, there's that Infalt, he ruined it for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Okay, we cross this spot out, we cross this spot out, we cross this spot out, and pretty soon you've got a very little area that buck could be, and that's how I'm killing them.
Yep. Last week, I don't know if people picked up on it, but we had Rendell Eric on, and we got to talk about trail cameras. This is 2 weeks in a row we talked about trail cameras, but he made a really good point. He said people have this attitude where they'll go scout and they'll find their best area and they'll just put a cell camera on it, and that's how they monitor it. And he's like, they're thinking backwards. They need to go hunt it, and then if they don't kill something, then maybe go put a camera, then drop a camera there, and then you can. But he said then they get that picture of that big deer that walks by their trail camera on October 3rd. And then he's like, that's the only time it's going to freaking walk by it. He's like, and you should have been hunting there instead of worrying about your stupid camera. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably how people should think. And they don't. They think about, well, I'll just sit here and I'll put a camera in before I hunt it, So.
Yeah. I've hunted where I can see a camera that I monitor on several occasions. Specifically like at Dave's farm, because I put cameras out there because it's a private farm. And I've been in a spot where, in like an observation stand, where you watch a buck stand in front of that camera and you never get a picture. And you wonder how many times that thing goes by there and doesn't get a picture. And then how many times does it go around that camera and not come in front of it? And I've watched many, especially mature bucks, as they come in feeding and walking on the trail, look at that camera and walk around it in a long way around it and come out the other side and look back at the camera. They know those cameras are there. But the fact is, even when they walk past them, I mean, it's a device that picks up heat and movement. It doesn't always do that. They don't always work. You don't always get a picture, so keep that in mind.
Yep. I was hunting with Johnny Stewart in Ohio, and he told me he thinks that if you get a daylight picture of a buck once a week, that thing's probably living right there. Like he thinks, he's like, that thing is, and a lot of people be like, he's only there once a week. How am I ever going to catch him? And he's like, yeah, he probably walks around that thing every single day, and he probably just screws up once a week,
Yeah. If it's a shooter buck, anytime you get a daylight picture, you should be taking high notice.
Yes. Yeah. Oh. So that
On the other hand, I hear people all the time. I'll get people. Not to make this about trail cameras, but I'll get people who send me comments all the time. I got this buck that's coming by at midnight, 1 a.m. The other day, I got him at 11 p.m. Then again at midnight. But he's there every day, and he's a giant. And it's only 40 acres. I don't know where should I hunt on this 40 acres? You should probably go knock on the neighbor's door because he's not living there.
Yeah.
It's not anywhere towards daylight. I mean, he might be, but there's probably not if it's a small acreage and you're getting them in the middle of the night. They travel at night.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, you just never know, right? I mean, he could be making some kind of loop or something where maybe he lives there, but he's making some weird loop and he walks by at midnight. Who knows? Those are the hardest questions to answer for people. It's like
people got to stop looking for technology to solve all their problems.
Yeah.
Basically. I mean, sure, use the cameras, let them help you, but don't rely on them. Don't use a camera and one day you get a picture of a buck in daylight and you figure something out and you kill a buck and say, okay, cameras are the way to go. And I'm buying 50 cameras. And that's all I'm doing now is concentrating on pictures. And all day long, I'm looking at pictures. You're going to lose your ability to kill deer because killing deer takes understanding how they shift around, how they bed, how they use the wind, how they travel, when they're going to be in spots, doing the detective work of when they're bedding in a spot in an area, and being able to make educated guesses on where they're going to be, not using a camera. Because a lot of times they're bedding in a certain area because of the weather conditions or because of the timing of the rut or something like that. And you got to beat him to the punch. You got to be there when he's there, not 2 days after you got a picture.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not, I guess, is an issue. The thing with the cameras now is like, I had a buddy call me the other day. He's at Walmart and they had cell cameras for $29 at Walmart on sale. And he's like, "You want me to get you one?" I'm like, "No, not no." But that's crazy how cheap everything is getting.
Yeah,
it's tough. And Jake from Exodus told me a while back. He said he could see a day where if you just like subscribe to the data plans, or how you got to pay the data plans. He sees one day that they'll make this stuff cheap enough that you just have to subscribe and they'll give you cameras to use. Like if you start a data plan with them, they'll give you a camera for every data plan you have. And I'm like, man.
Yeah, some of these camera people are coming up with some pretty cool stuff. Moultrie started doing a thing where they take everybody's data. So they've got what do you call it? I can't think of the word for it, but they can take the pictures from your camera. When you get a picture, they can tell if it was a buck.
Oh, like AI or something.
AI.
Yeah.
So they got AI in there, so they can tell if it's a buck. They can tell if it's a raccoon. They can tell if it's a doe. And when you get a picture of bucks or deer, and they're moving at time frames, they can actually estimate how the deer are going to be moving the next day and stuff with the AI. And they can do that right in the area of the hunters now. And I'm willing to bet all your trail camera companies are going to start doing that, all your cell cam, because a lot of people don't notice. But the people who host your pictures and stuff, the trail camera companies can see all those pictures if they want to.
Oh, yeah.
They have access to that. So a good reputable company ain't going to look at your pictures or say, oh my gosh.
Right.
Talker, I'm going to check his camera out. They're not going to do that. But what they do is they take everybody's pictures and start putting, like this huge survey, like deer color survey, but with trail, it's kind of interesting.
Cool. Yeah, it's super interesting. And that's just to go back to your point about them. They can look at your pictures, like all those mapping softwares. They can see your points and everything too. Like,
yep.
None of that's real confidential. I don't think.
Scary stories about certain companies.
Yeah, I have too.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you, Dan, I wrote this down while you were talking a minute ago. You got to talking about just how time has passed and you had the 80s and things were good. In the 90s, when the outdoor industry started to kick up, it kind of got rough again. And then it got good in the 2000s. And then YouTube came along and we educated everybody on how to go to public land. Like, when did you
public land?
Huh?
Not because of YouTube, they're gonna buck on any public land, right?
Right, exactly. It's the downfall of it all. When did you start like knowing you wanted to teach people? Because I mean, I'm sure maybe when you were younger, I don't know if you had that drive or not, but
yeah, when I was young, like a lot of young people, I mean, I wanted to kill the biggest, baddest bucks and be the man. But
yeah,
after you kill a few, you just kind of get over that. I mean, I don't know how to say it, but it becomes old, real fast. Yeah. And I really wanted to see other people experience, what I went through, and I wanted to see them get away from, bad stuff, lifestyles, and into better lifestyles. And I think for me that probably started to occur in the early 90s. And I was trying to put something together with a TV show, and it was just so hard back then. I was a guest on a lot of TV shows, but I wanted to put something specifically together for like teaching people how to hunt. And everybody would tell me, no, nobody wants to learn how to hunt. That's stupid. Nobody needs that knowledge. They all know how to hunt. They want to see big bucks get killed. That was the big thing back then, what people thought. I always kind of thought ahead of times, myself. But I got that when the DVDs started coming out. I wanted to do a DVD series where I covered every terrain, and then I wanted to go into, I never did finish it because I wanted to do a rut DVD. I wanted to do all kinds of other stuff, and they're just too time consuming to make them. But I had to pull other people in that were smart enough with the technology to help me with that. And then after I pulled them in, they turned out to be screwballs. So I ended up going on my own. But then by that time I started to learn how to do it myself. But it was really, probably early to mid 90s where I started to really feel like, I want to teach people, what I've learned. I saw a lot of, at that same time frame, I saw a lot of, what I considered myths in hunting. You hear, the tactics you would hear were just so stupid to me that I wanted to, show people that it was wrong. There was still a time frame when people are saying stay away from bedding, and things like that.
That's interesting. I just never did ask you that, so it popped into my head. That let's go back to your buck now. That specifically, this buck and this this overlooked spot or spot that wasn't obvious to everybody, was it a close to the road spot way back so for people that didn't watch the video, was it a way back far spot or
well, the property isn't very big, so you can't really get way back far.
Okay.
But it was on the back side of the property, and there was it was in an area of almost solid buckthorn, where there's no trees, where people won't hunt. And I'm starting to find that seems to be the new hot spot, is that buckthorn. You can't hunt on the ground because mature buckthorn is wide open on the ground. If you're standing head level, it looks thick, but bend over to a deer's level and you can see everything. It's just the little trunks all over the place, right? But it's wide open. It covers the ground, so no undergrowth grows. I mean, it's really a nasty thing. It just takes over everything. But you can't get too elevated. Number one, those things are so branchy, and the branches are so small that it's hard to get into a tree. But you can kind of, if you can get the right tree, you can kind of get just barely off the ground kind of thing. And that's what I was doing. And I've done that on several occasions, and I've had some really good luck. It seems like those are the areas now that people really can't get into. And if you can find some niche where there's one spot where you can get on the ground because a bush fell or something to get into, or there's one spot where you can get into a tree, or, and the hardest part of it is those buckthorn areas is now when I get into them is really you get to the spot where you need to be and finding the right setup. Because like when you get into timber or something, you usually have options. You might not be the greatest, but you have options, where you really have a hard time with options in that scenario. But But that's where the bucks are hanging out in daylight. That's where you got to be.
Yeah, you can tell in the video. It's in your video, it almost looks like he's walking in an open area, but it's obviously not. How high were you off the ground?
I was probably about, I think I used 4 sticks, but I wasn't that high. The sticks were close together and the tree was on a slant, and I couldn't get very elevated to where I wanted to be. It was kind of, it was a box elder tree that was growing in this stuff. There's like a little opening that had some trees, but all those trees had already lost their leaves. And it was in the middle of that buckthorn. And there wasn't really an ideal tree in there. The tree looked a lot better in spring when I spotted it. I didn't, you don't go in and you climb up the tree and set it up or anything. It's not private ground. So I looked at the tree and marked it. So when I got there, I had to deal with what I had. And literally, because that tree is on an angle like this, you're standing on it like this. So you're literally sticking out from the tree. And then I'm expecting the deer to kind of come around from the front of me. And he didn't, because I called to him, because he grunted, if you remember the video. Mm-hmm. So I grunted back, from the bedroom, I heard him grunt. And he came out and kind of headed straight to me. But then he turned and walked right alongside of me. And from that viewpoint, if he looked up, I was skylit. I didn't have no cover at all whatsoever. And I could not believe that deer did not see me draw that bow or anything. It's just like, I thought he was going to bust at any minute, but he didn't. It just all came together well. He seemed to be real sidetracked. I don't know if it was because of the grunt, but it almost seemed like he had forgotten about the grunt by that time. Like he came in because of the grunt, but now he just seemed to be moving through because he wasn't really looking around. He just kind of concentrated. If you watch the video, even when I tried to stop him, he was just oblivious to me even making a noise. He was just walking,
I wonder if he like misheard your grunt where he thought it was farther or something. He was trying to get, you know what I mean? I wonder if he was trying to beeline to a certain spot where he thought he heard that grunt and you just happened to.
When he first came out, he was staring right at like the base of my tree and he kind of looped towards the tree. But then when he got close, I mean, his tail was flicking too. And he was like licking his nose, like he's trying to smell, but the wind was in my favor. But then when he got to like within 20 yards, it's just like all of a sudden it's just like, well, what's going on over there? And he just kind of, I don't know. I just think he just kind of forgot about it.
Lost track of what he was thinking.
Yeah.
Happens to me sometimes. Man, it's funny you mentioned that grunting things. And in Kansas this year, I had multiple scenarios where I could grunt at deer. And I learned a lot, like by watching because you can see a lot more up in there. And it is, I mean, you have to have the perfect scenario for a deer to come into a grunt call. Like I was completely convinced of that. Like anytime if I would see I saw a really big buck, 100 yards from me and he wasn't coming closer. And I grunted and snort wheezed at him and he was interested, but that deer did everything in his power. He jumped like 2 fences to get around behind me and was going to come in, downwind. And I just wonder how many times that happens, like people that grunt a lot or,
exactly.
how horrible you are educating those deer because all they do is, even if they're 150 yards away, they're going to eventually make their way around and smell that,
From my perspective, over the years with playing with stuff, I would say a grunt call is probably the best calling thing you have over rattling antlers, over, snort wheezing and all that other stuff. I'd say the grunt call works the best. And even that, I can think of all the times over the years, especially when I was younger, where you'd see a deer going by and you'd call to it and it would instantly get spooky, or it would instantly get on alert and stare right up in the trees, like looking for you, like knew where you grunted from. Mm-hmm. I learned real quick that you do not grunt at a deer that's looking in your direction because their hearing is so in tune that they'll figure out it's up in the tree. And when you grunt to them, when they do come in, you watch them come from a long ways and trot right up to the base of your tree. And then they're looking around like, where is it? It was right here. Yeah. And I've had so many times where they come in and they get to about 20 yards or something and they look around and they're like, there's no deer here. And you just see like the fear come into them. You can just see the look on their face, the ears come back and the look, and I've had them circle downwind and smell you. The scenario of actually killing one gets hard. And what you do is you educate those deer. And with that said, what a grunt call is really good for is if that deer is not coming to you and it's going past, there's a good chance with a grunt you can turn it around and bring it in for a shot. And I've done that many times. I've killed a lot of deer with a grunt call, but I will not blind call. So many people are out there blowing a tune. You're spooking the deer before they even get to you, especially, you know, I shouldn't say that. I'm not saying you should never blind call. I'm saying you shouldn't set up like I do on bedding where you're expecting a buck to come in and then just start tooting a horn, because you're likely to spook that deer. But there are scenarios like you're on a piece of private land and there's a buck that lives on the other property and never comes over, and you just want to, you know, it's kind of like a desperation call is what I call it.
Mm-hmm.
Blind calling. But there are situations where you need a desperation call, you know, but just being quiet and letting them come to you is probably the very best thing you can do. And when you're talking mature bucks that are 5, 6 years old, I mean, they've been shot at, they've been called to, they've been probably hit by bullets, hit by arrows. I mean, on the public lands I'm hunting, those things got projectiles in them. They've learned some very hard lessons and they've had calling done to them. I mean, I don't remember any rut where I haven't heard several people calling while I'm out hunting. You know, so if I'm hearing it, deer are hearing it for sure. So those deer are getting educated to that. So I would not, you know, when they come in and they catch you in a new spot, you've never been there before, or at least not that year, or, you know, no time anywhere near that time frame, and they come in and there's not a grunt call at them, there's not a rattle at them or anything, they're just doing what they normally do when they come through there, and you catch them completely off guard, that's when you can kill them. That's when you can make a mistake. That's when you can draw in a tree without them catching you. When you grunt call them in and they come in on pins and needles, try drawing your bow. Try getting it drawn. I mean, that's when they get hard to kill. That's when you get a deer that's so much on pins and needles that when you shoot, they drop the string, you hit them in the spine, or you hit underneath them, or because they jump, or, you know.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I've called in a few deer and shot them, and every time it's just like it's just the absolute perfect scenario where if the deer is going to come in here, he's going to have to come in here to see. Like he can't see where I'm at, or he's you know, there's some kind of obstruction behind me that he can't, you know, get around me. And it's only happened, you know, a few times. And who knows how
I got some
you know.
footage of Rat Slayer when he was like 14. I don't know. A lot of people probably remember that footage. He was kind of a little kid. We were up in the hills, and he ended up shooting a 10-pointer. But before the 10-pointer came in, a doe came in, and he just wanted to shoot a deer, you know. And he pulls back his bow, and the doe's walking, and he goes, "Meh," and that thing just instantly barreled out of there like a rocket, and it had no idea he was there. It just freaked and ran so hard when he tried to stop it.
Oh, that's funny. He had a good season. This is his first year back. Didn't disappoint, probably, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of him. I hope he sticks with it.
Yeah. If he doesn't, it wasn't because he wasn't into deer this year. That's for sure.
Right.
Was there anything else we need to talk about with public land? And I feel like we kind of covered everything when it comes to your buck and hunting around the pressure and all that. We got a bunch of questions, so I was going to let people ask questions tonight.
Sounds awesome.
All right. Let's see here. Pharrell asked, when you're in the stand, how often are you standing, sitting, back to the tree, sitting, facing the tree, etc.?
You know, most people probably think that you stand the whole time ready and waiting. If I stand, I start fidgeting, and that moving will get caught when a deer comes in, because they'll probably come in and I don't notice them right away because they come in slow and they'll be watching. All of a sudden there's a deer there, and if you're fidgeting, they're going to catch it. And if I'm standing, I'm going to move around because my foot's going to get sore, my hand's going to get sore, or whatever. I find it's best for me to sit down till I hear or see one. So I pretty much stay sitting. If I'm really in a spot where I'm kind of compromised, I like a real high seat on a tree stand. Sometimes I'll take the seat itself and I'll tip it up and I'll sit on the very top of it while it's kind of up. So I'm almost standing, but I still get that sitting position kind of where I'm at rest. So I'm not fidgeting. But most of the time I'm sitting until something comes in, because I find that you're more likely to get busted moving around by trying to stand and be ready.
Yeah, I essentially do the same thing. I sit until I get an opportunity to stand up if something's coming in. I don't know about you, but I always try to stand up before a buck comes in and give me a shot. I like to be on my
feel
feet.
much better standing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm always just you're paranoid about, you never know when you're gonna have to make a move or something's gonna happen.
Not only that, but when you're sitting in a tree, again, you have that big blob sticking out from the tree. When I stand, I put my back right up against the tree.
Right.
And what I'll do a lot of times is I'll turn sideways. And then the only thing sticking out of the tree is my big gut, but but I'll blend in with the tree, and I'll try to take the first thing they spot too is your face and your eyes. For whatever reason, those prey animals really lock onto faces and eyes. So I'll take the bow limb and I put it right in front of my face.
To kind of break up your
outline. A lot of your really great hunters from the past would notice that right away. People I first heard that from was like Miles Keller and stuff. He would wear a mask, face mask, or they'd wear face camo. I don't like face camo, but I used the bow limb seems to work really well. If I just put that in front of my face, I got to hold that bow up in the ready position anyways. So as soon as I got a shot, I can draw.
Yep. I heard Barry Winslow. I listened to one of his seminars at a show one time, and he was talking about that. He wears like, it's the same one I wear now, but it's like a full face spandeauxlage is what it's called. But he was real big on that too, getting your face covered up. How was talking to him?
Oh, he's a great guy. Just he's fun all around.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Jokes with you a little bit. I probably knew it and forgot it, but I didn't realize that his brother was his twin.
Yeah.
And I was in a phone conversation with him a few weeks ago, and I was talking to him, or it was more than a few weeks ago. It was back when we wanted to have Mom, but he was having health issues.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, now, your brother Gene's a little older than you, right? He says, yeah, he's quite a bit older than me. And I said, how's his health? He goes, not as good as mine. And it didn't dawn on me. I remember him saying that because I was worried about Gene's health, that he sent me his book for my birthday.
Yeah.
And I was looking through the book, and I saw under that it's his twin, and I thought, he was joking with me.
Yeah.
He's got that kind of sense of humor. Well,
oh, yeah.
Where he doesn't care if you get it. If he gets it, it's great because he's laughing his ass off. But
yeah,
he's a funny guy.
Oh yeah, he's character.
If you go back to those times, everybody wanted to be this rock hard Dick Idle type hunter who were like all serious, and he was the kind of guy that could joke around and have fun, and I like that.
Yeah, he always wore his hat like this or sideways, and yeah. Well, I think even in those DVDs he made, I think he had a lot of like pranks and jokes went on in those.
Yeah. He had one video that I don't even know if this is mainstream. I might even still have it, but he gave it to me at a show. It was just a disc he gave me, and it was him like, God, I thought it was hunting bears, not deer, but bears. But he had like 6 opportunities between him and his brother. And they missed every single bear, and they were just laughing their asses off. I missed another one.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah,
That'd be fun. I mean, it'd be fun to have a brother like that. That those two are so into hunting together and being able to do that together their whole lives. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, It kind of sucks not really like having somebody right here that hunts with me all the time and stuff.
Yeah.
but I probably do better because of that.
Right.
I think I kill any friendships there because nobody wants to hunt as hard as me or do the things.
You end up getting frustrated with people or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Nolan, he asked, did you do any scouting since the cold snap hit?
No, because we got buried with 17 inches of snow. So pre-snow, I went scouting quite a bit. Post-snow, I have not. I have been driving around looking at bucks, but that doesn't do me much good. And the deer right now, with the heavy snow, are on winter patterns that aren't going to have any reflection on next fall. I need the snow to melt to see the sign from last fall to be able to really scout right now.
Yeah.
What I really need to do is find somebody who has a pig problem and wants me to come visit.
Right.
Because I am going stir crazy and I need something to hunt.
There you go.
So any of you guys out there got a pig problem and want me to come down and join you? Reach out.
Facebook message Dan. Let's see here. Tim asks, how do you define deer density? So many square miles, so many per square mile, or just general observation?
I don't know if I ever trust their numbers too much because I think a lot of times our agencies, unfortunately, are working against us instead of for us. And I think they use numbers to prove a point. So they kind of prove them in a certain direction. But the way they do it is by per square mile.
Mm-hmm.
The density per square mile. And they'll say 25 is high or something. I think they kind of like, I can remember some figures where they wanted 5 or 6 per square mile. But if you think about that, I mean, the marsh I hunt here is about maybe a couple square miles. And if you put 10 deer out there, I mean, we've got maybe 500 different people a year that hunt here. Your odds go down significantly. I would say that there's a lot of misconceptions about population. Like the old school thing that the biologists tell you. And the only reason they tell you this is because it's what they were taught in school. It's not because they've actually seen it. That the antlers get smaller and they get the herd gets worse. The does stop having babies and stuff because of the population being so high. And all of a sudden you got these little tiny racks. But with that said, I hunted on a ranch in Illinois where they had over 100 deer per square mile. And I hunted there for a weekend on an invite. And I had over 100 deer come past me in one sit. There was actually something spooked them. It was in a late season hunt and they were feeding in a field. Something spooked them. I don't even know what it was, but it was a stampede coming out of that field. Jeez. And there was so much dust I couldn't even see. And yet I seen tremendous bucks. And that particular property, the person who was hunting there shot 2 bucks that were in the top 10 of the state. I want to say top 10 by score typicals in the state. Even though the population is that high. You got to have a high population to have a high population of big bucks. Now, I'm not promoting having 100 deer per square mile. I think that's a lot of hand. The particular landowner there, or not landowner, but the person who was leasing it, won't shoot does and frowned upon it.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's why the population was like that. He wouldn't let nobody shoot does there or whatever. And I would say 100 deer per square mile is out of hand. I mean, there was like it's a little over your head. There was no leaf cover anywhere.
Yeah.
They would get on their feet and they'd eat everything, every plant life. I mean, I'm sure that they were doing havoc on certain native plants, in the area. But with that said, I think 25 to 30 deer per square mile is pretty healthy. I think 50 per square mile ain't bad. I mean, you look at the difference between Iowa and Wisconsin, where I'm at in Wisconsin. The difference is the population. It's not the quality. Everybody thinks they want to go down there because of the genetics and all that. The genetics ain't that great. Those bucks ain't any bigger than the bucks here. It's just they got the age class because they got the quantity.
Yeah.
They got a lot of deer. So the difference is, like, I might hunt here a week in rut and see 6 or 7 deer. I hunt a week in Iowa and I see 50.
Yeah.
You drive down the road and you see bucks sparring in people's yards. You see them walking down the roads. You see them chasing does across the road in front of you. I don't see that here. We just don't have that many deer. You see it maybe once in a week, not every day, every time you drive to the store or every time you go to the gas station. It's the population. That's why the area where I hunted in Iowa, I got so many opportunities. You put me in a game-rich area and I'm going to kill some bucks. That Iowa hunt I think every day I saw a shooter buck, every single day, at least one from stand, at least one shooter buck. So you don't get that around here because the population ain't high enough. There ain't enough bucks. It has nothing to do with the quality of the animals or the genetics or anything like that. I'd actually say we got better genetics here than where I hunted in Iowa. I would say that if these deer get to that 5, 6, 7 years old, they tend to be bigger bucks on average than the ones down there. I mean, we get a lot of deer around here that are killed that when they're aged, they're 3.5 and they make Boone and Crockett.
Right. Yep. Good points. Let's see here. Hunting factor. Dan, do bucks know when the pressure is low and come back into those areas?
I think they don't know it, but they kind of do. They smell it. They can smell when pressure's low. So what they do is they smell human pressure. Everything they do is with their nose. Everything we do is with our eyes. So it's hard to comprehend for a person because a person, like if they see danger, if you went outside and you saw somebody standing in your yard with a gun and he stepped into the shadows, you'd be really, really careful about going outside again. You'd be really careful about watching that area. But if you walked out one day and there was a bullet laying over there and some footprints, you might be a little inquisitive about it, but it wouldn't bother you. Deer are the opposite. They could see you walking through a field, it wouldn't bother them. They'd like step back and they'd be like, "Huh, what is that? Is that a person?" But if they get downwindy and they smell you, then they know. Or they'll wait till you leave and go over there and smell you. But everything's on smell. And the pressure, when people go through an area like gun season and stuff, those people leave scent that last 30 days. So the deer are going to move to areas where there is no human scent, where people haven't been. And it's going to take that scent dissipating to go back. And really, I think even when that scent dissipates, those deer still have a leeriness to that area. That area was a problem area. They go to areas at time frames, and those time frames are based on when people aren't around, and pressure can really kill an area. For example, I've got some spots around here that were great for years and years and years. And then that pressure everybody's blaming me for, right? Comes in. And somebody finds my little island or they find my little point or whatever, and they set up a tree stand, 4 trail cameras, and feed a trail to it, and they go there and they hunt there every single day because they saw a deer there once, right? And that place just goes dead. The spot had big bucks every single year. And now you don't even have a rub in it after a season of this guy. Well, the next year he shows up again because he had that good season 2 seasons ago. And he doesn't see any deer again for a season. And then he gives up and he leaves. And you check and his stand's gone. His cameras are gone. Person, all right, it's going to be good. Deer don't come back. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 seasons before I start getting mature bucks back in there again after that. That damage is harder than you think. And, there's only so many mature bucks around. And when they kick one out of there, he's going to be real leery about ever coming back to that area. So it's really you think about, I can't stress this enough. And I think people just it goes over their heads. But that first sit thing, that I'm killing those biggest bucks, those ones that are 6 or 7 years old. I'm killing them on the very first sit that I do in a spot. And think about all the great spots I've found over my lifetime that I will go back and hunt here and there. And I'm not killing those giants. I'll kill a nice buck there. I'll see a lot of deer there. But those big bucks are finding those niches where people don't go. And when I do go and I kill another big buck in that same spot, it's usually after a couple of years have gone by without me hunting there. Think about that. There's a reason for that. It doesn't happen on accident.
Right. Okay. I lost my place here. Someone asked what your buck scored this year, Dan, if you ever scored it.
I kind of rough scored it. I didn't take a tape measure to it, but it's right about 170.
All them extra, yeah, those has them extra points going like that on the inside of it too. That helps a lot when you got 2 extra tines on each beam.
Right, it's got a lot of tine length. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it does.
It adds up.
John, he asked, he has 600 acres, highly pressured public. Is it too small of a piece of land? So he can't find any overlooked spots, but gets pictures of big bucks at night every year.
Well, I would be wondering how late at night and how far from the borders the cameras are. If you go through the property, you find all the bedding areas, you sift through them, and you hunt them, and you don't see any big bucks, I'd probably move on. But I can tell you, around here, the majority of the public property I don't even care about. Won't go there. It has to have certain ingredients for me to pick out a public property to even want to look at it. And mostly what I'm looking for is that it has spots where people can't kill everything, like with a gun or whatever. It has spots where people won't get into. Large areas of underwater tags, cattails that are mixed with water, and brush pockets and stuff that people just won't get into. They won't go out and wade out into that crap. Especially in pressured areas. I mean, you get into hill country, and a lot of times it's just more about vast areas that people don't get to because how vast they are, which is kind of what Josh has. But when you get into the pressured areas that are swampy, kind of like what I got, they don't even have to be swampy. They can be farmland. You got to look for wet stuff. That wet stuff is usually where they're going to be living. It doesn't mean you have to kill them in the wet stuff. It just means that that's what's going to keep them alive. When the pressure comes on, that's where they're going to go, because they got to get to 6 or 7 years old to have the age that you know to be something you really want. Now, take that with a grain of salt. I know most of you would shoot one 2, 3, 4 years old. Obviously, so would I, right? If it's the right buck. But we all dream of shooting those older ones, right? The real monster ones, right? Don't put yourself out of the ball game. So look for a property that has those ingredients. And if your gut's telling you those bucks aren't there, maybe they're not. But I would probably look at the pictures and try to decide, does it get dark at 7 p.m. and the picture's at 7:20 and it's a quarter mile from the land border? Lenny's probably coming from somewhere in there. Is it midnight? Is it 1 o'clock in the morning? And but I would probably comb the area pretty good, look at all the bedding areas, and I would look at the beds. Now, generally, if a big buck is bedding in a bedding area, usually he'll have rubs right in the beds, and you'll be able to tell by the rubs if the big buck is there, right? So if you're not finding that, there's probably not any shooters in there. But with that said, if there's only like one in there, he might not be leaving a lot of sign in his bedding areas, but they're usually the bedding areas will tell me if there's a real big buck in there.
George asked, any chance the buck you shot this year is the buck you shot last year, or did it have any broadhead or bullets from the previous season?
I've been asked that a lot. It's not the same buck.
Yeah, you'd notice that. I'm sure that deer's always had funky. You had some people send you pictures of it and stuff, right?
Yes. Yes. Neighbor accused me of poaching it.
Yeah.
Said I shot it on his land. Luckily, I film everything I do, so you can see where I shoot it. You can see where it drops. So that wasn't on it. Then he said I had to have trespassed on his property to know about the buck and all this kind of crap. I mean, just get jealous because you shoot it. But a whole bunch of people that hunt that public property had pictures of the buck. When we were coming out, when we were dragging the buck out, we ran into a trail camera. And the person who owned that sent me a whole bunch of pictures of the buck. I think he was just waiting for daylight pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were a few people that sent me pictures, quite a few people. The fighter guys, what's their names?
Oh, yeah. I know you're talking about barbers.
Yeah, the barber boys. They had drone footage of it. They told me they would have hunted it, but they they saw it with the drone while they're looking for coyotes or something like that, while they're coyote hunting, and they just assumed it was during the summer. They just assumed that it lived on the public or private.
There you go. Nolan, he says, have you heard about these 360 cameras by Stealth Cam? It's called a revolver, and it's a matter of time before you see those cams out there. Yeah, essentially it has a sensor all the way around it and a camera all the way around it, where anything that walks in that area, it'll pick up. Yeah, just more technology. I mean, I think you get an awful lot of false triggers, though. Do what?
Drones is the worst technology.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Can you guys still hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you.
My camera just died. 1 second. Let me just switch over to this camera. Okay. Quality went down, but at least you can still see me, though. I lost my train of thought. But I would think with those 360 cameras,
lower quality because of my face. I'm so ugly. Everybody always wants me to put a better quality camera on. What do you want to see up my nose or what?
I would think that those 360 cams, you'd get a lot of false triggers putting them in the woods or on public land. I think those are maybe designed for like putting them in the middle of a food plot or something. But I don't know. I could be wrong too. I've never used one, obviously. Let's see here. Do either of us think deer migrate? Yep. Certain areas, they definitely will.
I talk about that all the time, how they come out of the cattails and stuff, going to the fields. And, and when we go up to Michigan hunting in the UP, that's what we're doing, is we're chasing the migration. They've got a huge migration up there. I think you get more migration in the more you get into colder areas, but they are constantly kind of migrating. I mean, we talk about that all the time. How they change based on food sources and cover and move through an area. I mean, some deer are homebodies. You find a deer that never leaves a little, 1 mile square area. And then you find the next deer that's got like 10 miles. It disappears for a while and you're hearing about people seeing it somewhere else. And, every deer is a little different.
Pharrell asked about, you ever set up facing the tree backwards? Like I know you do, Dan.
I do, but I try not to. I do when the tree is leaning like towards the deer. I'll put it on the back side and hide behind the tree, because you can't get in the front side. You have a tree pushing you out of the stand, right?
Yeah.
So I like to be on the back side of the tree in that case. And if I think back about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, on Dave's farm, I shot one of those leaning trees off the backside. And I also shot one there a couple years ago. You probably remember that real big basket racked buck that I tried to shoot down the throat and never recovered.
Yep.
That was on that leaning tree. And he spotted me up there because he came in from the side view. When I drew the bow, he looked right up at me, which is why I tried to take that shot. And that's because of, that whole sticking out from the tree thing.
Right.
Back up. You can't get up against it.
You do it. Well, with the, what's the tree? Ash trees that are all dying off now. You get on the backside of them sometimes, don't you?
Only if they're leaning, usually. I usually sit on the side of the deer. I don't think it makes any difference. A lot of people think they got to hide behind a tree. I've never seen them notice me any different. As a matter of fact, I think I get busted more from the backside, because you're looking around a tree to see them or whatever. You stick out from the sides.
Yeah.
Where if I get in line with the tree, I'm one straight, object up. I'm not trying to peek around. I'm not trying to shoot around. I'm just sitting there, put my body sideways with the tree in line with it and block my face with that limb. And when a deer looks that direction, I mean, I shoot deer skylit and beanpole trees like that.
Yeah.
And I just sit there until the deer gives me a shot, and then I move,
Right. That's what I get a kick out of these, like these hardcore saddle hunters that act like they use those ring of steps. You know what that is, right, Dan? They put the steps all the way around the tree, and they're like, we can shoot at any direction. I'm like, how in the world are you moving when a deer's in bow range around the stupid tree like that? Like, that's not happening, guys. Like, quit telling me that. I mean, maybe maybe you get 40 feet in the air.
I'll tell you what, these mature bucks on public land, when they get to be 6 or 7 years old, you better not make a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, not any mistake. I mean, you better not be sticking your head out, a movement, draw your bow at the wrong time, or anything.
Yeah.
Think back to that one I got a couple seasons ago way out in the cattails. I mean, that deer had no clue that I was there. Caught him by total, complete surprise. And when I pulled that bow back, just that little limb, against the thing. I mean, it wasn't very much noise at all. That thing just locked up. And you remember how long that thing stood there?
Oh, yeah. Painful.
Crazy. I was lucky to get that deer because of that.
Right. All right. Russ had a quick one for you, Dan. Do you remember that running shot Barry Wenzel did with a recurve in October whitetails?
I've seen it, but I can't really recall it.
I think I remember that clip, though.
That's a long time ago.
Zeke says we need to go to Texas and kill an axis deer. No season, no limits, over-the-counter license, can hunt day and night. Any weapon? Jeez.
Any weapon? Hand grenades.
Yeah. It's probably legal in Texas. You can probably pick them up at the convenience store.
Talk about any weapon. I was looking at pig hunts in Florida, and if they use hounds, they require that you use a knife, that you have to get on the pig and kill it with a knife, because they don't want you shooting their hounds, or when it's in a frenzy. Because the hounds will hold the pig kind of by the ears and the tail or whatever, and they don't want you flinging bullets over there, right? So they make you get over there and stab it. That's kind of crazy.
That is kind of crazy. People do it, though. It's like a culture down there.
Good way to get demonetized.
Yeah, that's a quick way of getting demonetized on YouTube. Right. Dan, this guy's wife wants to know how you've made it this far as a big-time social media influencer without having one of those ring lights to give yourself perfect lighting. Have you seen them things? Those little, like, you can buy them at Walmart.
Right.
Have you
seen? Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's funny how these guys, these young guys. I mean, they just start getting into this or whatever, and all of a sudden they think they're a superstar. They build some elaborate like studio, and and you look and they got like 6 followers. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's
just have fun with it. I mean, you guys that want to do something in this, I mean, don't push it so hard, because what people want, and the reason people like me, is because I'm not trying, because it's fun. Because I'm just doing what I do and sharing it with people.
Right.
As soon as you start getting where you got to have ring lights, you're probably getting a little unrealistic for your average person.
Right.
When I say that, you got a ring light, Josh?
No, I don't have one. Just my lights on my thing here.
The big thing is, like with you, you're just more technically inclined than me. A lot of that stuff I don't even know about, because I don't really research it.
Yeah. A lot of people use that stuff as an excuse not to do things, though. They think they have to have all this crap, and if they don't have it, they can never, start a YouTube channel and all that. And you really don't need much to start doing this. Not much at all. I mean, really, your phone now could do anything you really need it to do for any of this stuff.
That's getting pretty saturated out there. There's probably like 8 million people that are doing deer podcasts.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to find like new things to talk about, even. I mean, just you try to find unique things. And I think that's what's nice about us, is we have like an audience that just wants to hear us talk sometimes, or just wants to hang out. And that makes it a little easier.
Well, you know what too is, I mean, we don't have to just sit here and constantly have conversations about tactics and stuff neither. I mean, we can have conversations about hunting life and all the stuff that we do, and be just fine. Where some people just try to make it about the same subject all the time, and it's just different people.
You're regurgitating information, and everybody's repeating themselves. Let's see here. Dan, do you think your spots get poached from people watching your YouTube channel?
Absolutely. Happens all the time. Doesn't really bother me that much. I mean, obviously that's annoying. It would be annoying for everybody, but I still managed to kill big bucks. The spot where I killed that real big one 2 years ago, there's like a waiting line for that tree now, and nobody ever hunted there before that time. I have no idea. I couldn't even believe people figured out where that tree was, but they did. And they seem to figure out all of them. I'm sure that the spot where I shot the buck this year will be like that too. It's a shame people are like that. I mean, the reason we do the videos is not to give you our spots. It's to teach you how to find your own.
Yeah.
You know, but people are people, and some people are like that. I think the overall majority of people that watch these videos, whether it's Josh's channel or my channel, they're watching because they legitimately are trying to become better hunters. But when you get, right now I think I'm going on 87,000 followers. When you have that many, there's going to be some nut bags.
Oh yeah.
There's going to be some crazy people, and there's going to be some people that have bad morals. It just is what it is. And if I want to do this, I have to accept that that some people are going to do stuff like that and be able to take the high road and just move on and not cry about it. If there's one thing I hate, I don't know about you, Josh, but if there's one thing I hate, it's people that get on their YouTube channels and cry about what happens to them. Oh, somebody did this to me. Somebody did that to me. It's just like, come on, just get over it.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the comment section. I mean, just hateful stuff or just pity stuff. All right, let's we can do a few more here. Dan, what's the average postseason scout look like for you, and how many times do you go before green up?
What does it look like? It looks like a fat old man wandering through a swamp. I go out, I don't know, probably at least once a week. I try to get out more than that, but I try to get out as much as I possibly can. I would get out way more than I do, except for I've dedicated a lot of my life to this YouTube stuff and to the helping other people, and that affects me. If I look back to my most productive time in my life, it was in the early 90s when I had no care about anybody else in the world except for myself, and just scouted all the time and hunted all the time. And I would literally scout as soon as I got off of work till dark. I can remember trying to push it out of work as fast as I can remember leaving for lunch breaks and scouting and then coming back. And now a lot of that's filled with, I got to do this, I got to do that. And I guess some of that's that thing that we call want. How bad do you want it? I guess when I was probably 25, I wanted it more,
right.
But my want has kind of changed, where I kind of want to help others. I kind of want to, be part of a legacy to help others become better hunters and better people. So that's the direction I've went, and that's gonna hurt my hunting a little bit. But I try to at least get out once or twice a week up until probably the end of June.
Yeah. Here's a good question. Who do you think I am? Asked in late season. Would you ever think it's better to set a stand lower on a tree to avoid being skylined?
Right now in the snow that we have right around my house now, a lot of times I'm on the ground. I dress in white and hide in the bushes. It just gets hard to get into a tree all the way around.
Yeah.
There's some bird noise and all that stuff. It's pretty dead quiet out. And a lot of times there's no leaf cover or anything. You get busted in the trees a lot, if not when the deer comes in while you're climbing. So if I can, I always prefer a tree over the ground. But when we get heavy snowfall like I have right now, if I get out anytime in the near future, it's going to be on the ground, most likely. All the spots I'm looking at, I don't think I could get in a tree. But but when I can, I do. I mean, if you look on my site, you'll notice a lot of my late season hunts are off the ground.
You so you wear white or snow camo or something like that? You think that helps a lot?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll rip up a white shirt, tie it around my hat or whatever. Yeah. I'll wear white camo. I buy really oversized white camo because you buy that real thin crap.
Yeah, just put
And
it
I'll
over your stuff.
my ASIO stuff or whatever that you got for cold weather.
Warm season, yeah. When it's something warm.
Yeah, that ASIO stuff that you got me hooked up with. I picked up their winter gear.
Yeah, their late season stuff.
Man, this Sub-Zero stuff, I get out in that stuff and I'm toasty.
Yeah.
The cold's like my face and my
Yeah,
fingers because I can't wear gloves while I shoot. But
right. Yeah. I've heard many people say that late season stuff. I have a set of. I didn't get to use it this year. I never got super cold during deer season when I was hunting. So, but I haven't got to test it. But I've heard good things about it. Mike asked if we ever seen a deer eat meat.
There was one in Milwaukee that somebody got film of on the lakefront eating fish, and then another one that was that ate baby birds. I don't remember where that was.
I've seen that one too.
That was a girl thing, yeah. Other than that, I haven't.
Yeah, I wonder what makes them do that. I wonder if there's like some kind of crave or some kind of nutrition they're missing, or I mean, you don't hear it very often, but I think they will. I think it's
not a lot, and I mean, if you look at human society, we got our Jeffrey Dahmers and stuff. That's Jeffrey Dahmer.
Good point. Oh man.
I had like the skeleton of a big bear that after I picked all the meat off of it, and I put it in the backyard in the swampy area of my property, and put a trail camera over it, and I was going to see what kind of predators I got to come in. I got a ton of deer that kept coming up and smelling it. Now they weren't eating it, but why would they walk up and smell it? I mean, there wasn't deer trails there or anything, but a whole bunch of deer came into that dead bear.
That's interesting.
That was bizarre, yeah.
Must be just curiosity or something. I don't know. Dan, do you know about this Alexander Buck situation? Have you guys heard about this?
I don't know the most recent stuff. Last I heard, he pled guilty to not having signed permission, and I don't know anything more than that. I really don't care. I hope he's if he hasn't been found guilty, I hope he's not, and I hope he's found innocent. But I'll always give somebody the benefit of the doubt until something's proven, because I've seen so many times when law officials target people because they're trophy hunters. I mean, I've been on the bad end of that, where you shoot a big buck and they don't believe there's any way a guy can do that a couple of years in a row, and they just think that you're a poacher because you shoot big bucks.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that make me raise an eyebrow to him. But if you're just going based off of what he said in a podcast, being suspicious or something, people lie on podcasts because they don't. Even I do. I'll say something to throw people off on where I was hunting or something, just because you don't want people targeting your areas and stuff. So I wouldn't base what he said solely on, unless he said something really incriminating. I would want if it were me, I would want the benefit of the doubt till it's proven to otherwise in court.
Yeah.
So, but I haven't heard anything else on it. So
yeah, I haven't either. So we talked about this a while, or whatever it was, a couple weeks ago, and I said the same thing you did. I'm like, man, people need to lay off this kid until something actually happens. Like people were just on the internet, just like calling him a poacher and everything else. And it's like, he might be, but he also might not be. And he must have listened to it, and he like messaged me on Instagram like, thank you for saying that. He's like, not very many YouTubers are saying that. They're doing the opposite, like getting the clickbaity thing,
right,
bashing him. He was. I feel sorry for him in a way. I mean, if he did or didn't do it, who knows? That's to be determined, I guess.
Yeah, who knows even what they're exactly accusing him. What I saw,
nobody knows,
from the game department was they had him for not having written permission because it's required by law in that state, but he had permission.
Yeah, it's a sister's property.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't even sound right. But
I don't have written permission for my private here. Like it's just a place we've been hunting forever. You know, like it's not. I don't have technically a written like contract or anything. I mean,
Yeah, well, according to the law, there you have to have it.
yeah,
So
right.
I don't know what he did or what he's accused of, but
I don't know either.
I know the law can be pretty aggressive towards people that they don't like or that they think did something wrong. And I sure wouldn't want people pointing fingers at me.
No, it's tough. Man, if you ever kill a 230-inch typical or 220-inch typical deer, you better start calling people before you do anything with the deer.
I've seen some shows by some pretty well-known people who say that if you shoot a world-class deer, what you're supposed to do is call the warden, have them come out and look at everything, have the warden check the tree you're in, check where you shot and stuff, make sure everything's legit so that you have that on your side because you're going to get accused. And it's a shame if you have to do that. But a lot of your big names in hunting claim that you better do that if you don't want to get railroaded.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, people do stupid things for big deer. I know it's like, but people also get super jealous about big deer and they do stupid things on the other end, I
can tell you one thing with the accusations I got this year on the buck I shot.
Yeah.
That were pretty damning, except for I shot the buck on film.
Right.
I'm pretty glad I shot that buck on film. I recorded where it dropped and everything. I'm pretty glad I have that stuff on film. I'll tell you that because I might be in the same situation he's in, if not.
Yeah. All right. One more here. Jay Bizzle. What's your plans for season? You're going to work on anything new this coming season?
Oh, my plans for season?
Yeah.
Where I'm going to hunt?
Well, I think you just like this next coming year. You got any plans or anything you're going to work on?
Well, I drew bear for Wisconsin, and I got first week for turkey, which is important because I don't have Dave's land to fall on anymore.
Yeah.
Our turkey land out here on public just gets pounded. So the opening week is a pretty good time frame to have. And as far as I'm still working on new products and stuff secretly. And I'm going to do a lot of scouting, a lot of looking around, and hoping to draw Kansas this year. Other than that, it's just another year.
Yep. A lot of time between now and then. You guys are still hunting this year or last year, whatever you want to say.
I might even go out and shoot another deer yet.
There you go.
We'll see.
Let's answer this last question here. This is a good one. Hunt better. He asked, what's the biggest mental hurdle for most guys when chasing mature deer?
Believing in themselves, probably. I think there's if a guy hasn't had much success, I think he's always got this thing in his mind that he's doing something wrong and that he's in the wrong spot and he's in an internal struggle. I think you need success to get confidence.
There you go. It's a good one to end on. Thanks for getting on tonight, Dan.
Yeah, no problem.
I linked the Hunting Beast YouTube channel below, and go check it out if you guys haven't already. I know most of you on here know who Dan is, but either way, go give it a subscribe, and we'll talk to y'all later. See ya.
See ya.